Good evening and welcome to our 6 at 6 lecture here in November. I'm Shauna Riley from the Scripps Howard Center, and we are here to hear a lovely lecture. The Scripps Howard Center sponsors the 6 at 6 series, which is 6-ish lectures by faculty in the community or on campus, where we talk about interesting things and bring NKU to you. So with that, I get the pleasure of introducing tonight's speaker, Dr. Sandra Spataro, a professor of management and a consultant. And the title alone should tell you that this is an exciting night, especially, gloomy night, kind of dark, and it's going to snow tomorrow, apparently. Fingers crossed one way or the other. But nonetheless, we need to think about inspiration. We're going into the holiday season. Having inspiration at work seems like a pretty fabulous experience. So with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Spataro. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. And I've lost my clicker. Here it is. Good way to start, huh? Let me see. Yeah. I don't think we need 2 title slides, so I can skip that one. I'm just going to say thank you all for coming out. I'm excited to be talking about this work and sharing it with you. I hope it's going to be useful. I won't say the I word, but I hope it's going to be fun, too, right? Inspiring. So the title of the talk, which is based on a book I'm going to be talking about, is Dare to Inspire. And my goal with this is to help you activate inspiration in your own life to have your best days more often. Lofty goal. Let's see how we do. First of all, what is inspiration? We all have a sense of it, right? It means something to us in some way. There's something kind of transcendent about it. There's something ephemeral about it. But it's hard to pin down. It's one of those you know it when you have it kinds of things, right? And so I want to tap into that right away to get us started. I want to ask you to think about, this is an interactive session. I'm putting you all to work, including online folks. Do what you can, and if there's a chat or whatever, or share with yourself and then share with us. But I want to ask you to think about a time when you've been inspired. A moment, personal or professional. All this stuff applies at work, but boy, is it not limited to work. When is the time when you have felt inspired? What happened, and how did you get inspired? I'm going to give you a second to think. And then, yes, we're sharing. So please find a friend in the room, online, whatever, and please share your inspiration story with each other, and then I'll ask for some generous folks to also share with us in the room. But I'm going to give you only about a minute or 2. Please share with a partner. What was your moment of personal or professional inspiration, and what got you there? Go ahead.
So I recently read a book. I recently read a book, and I don't really believe in manifestation. I never have. I've always thought it's proper. So, but this was written by a neuroscientist, and it was also written by a neurosurgeon who talked about actually seeing in the brain what happens during surgery when somebody is trying to manifest like a positive feeling, they want from something. And he said he could see the sparks actually happening in the brain. And so he wrote about this, and it was very inspirational. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And I was like, okay, how do you do this? And he gives you the neurons. It's like 8 steps. It's a lot of steps, but you can boil it down. And I started doing that every morning. It is. It really, like, it's changed my days. Right? Hang on. I will tell you what it is.
Let's take one more minute.
I just got to look at my orders because I'm mind magic. We don't pay James D-O-T-Y, mind magic. You just put that down, but the subtitle is the neuroscience of manifestation and how it changes everything. It was really interesting. So,
Are we about there? I've lost control of the room already. That's always a good sign. I'm happy about that. Come on back. Let's start with, was it easy to identify a time when you felt inspired? Can you find it? We know what it is when it's happening, right? Who's willing to share? What makes you inspired?
We both talked about conversations we had with people. Like,
Okay.
there's a person you can point to that you go. Sorry. We both talked about conversations we've had, and there's a person you can point to and go, I want that, right? Like I want to
Love
bottle
that.
it, and that's what I want to give to the rest of the world.
Nice, nice. What else? We're going to really make Chris work here. We're going to try to get more people talking.
So I read a book recently, and what it inspired me to actually take a small action every morning that's had a huge life-changing effect.
Wow, nice, love it. And you'll have to tell us all the title of the book when it's over, after we finish this book. One more, come on. What inspires you? What got you inspired in that moment that you were talking about?
I think goals inspire in general. Like when I remember of my goals, like when I remind myself of what I want, that inspires me.
Yeah, I love it. An ambition, a drive.
I didn't plan it this way, but everything that I thought of that inspired me was watching how somebody faced and overcame difficulties, and how they faced it and how they overcame every single one of my examples. I just now thought of that.
Thank you, Diana. People are amazing, right? I mean, it's an honor to witness. And we're going to talk about these things a little bit more. You've tapped into a number of different things. What we've started here with this, you talking about your inspiration and what causes inspiration for you is one of my goals for us for today. I want you to understand inspiration in new ways, right? Let's think about it not as this mystery that we hope gets visited upon us, but something that we can actually work with. I want to create in you a sense of agency over your own inspiration. It's not something that we have to just hope is visited upon us when we need it, right? But something that you can actually impact, control, make happen. And then finally, empowered in that way to use inspiration to have your best days more often. I have high aims for us. Let's see how we do. We have a whole section so this all comes out of this book, Dare to Inspire, that I wrote with two co-authors who are my partners in consulting. We have a whole section in the book about why inspiration matters. I'm going to give you just a little bit of it, but a little bit of backstory first. We started this consulting firm, which is called InspireCore, thinking we want to make an impact on people in their work lives. We're focused on work lives. What is that thing? What is that thing? And as we talked about it, we kept coming back to it's inspiration. It's when people are inspired that they're just soaring, right? They're doing their great work. They're doing what they want to be doing, that kind of thing. So we looked at the research. There's a couple of things that we found. In a 2012, I don't like showing old research. This is old research. But from 2012 study that IBM did, CEO study, 60% of CEOs rated inspirational leadership as most critical for organizations. Not profit, not attracting talent, not retain, right? All those things that we know are fundamentals of business success. Inspirational leadership among 60% of them. What we know from other research is that Inspired employees and leaders are more than 3 times as productive as dissatisfied employees. So it's not a nice to have, it's not a ooh, feel good. Makes a difference, impacts the success of your organization pursuing its mission. However, 1 in 8 employees report feeling inspired at work. That is way too low. I'm showing you this 2012 work because I think it's gone up. I think the importance of it with more Gen Z folks at work, in our lives, right? Are we post-COVID? On the other side of COVID, I hope, right? It's a different world out there in our work lives and in our personal lives. And I think that inspiration matters more than anything. The book came out in November of 2019. So kind of right before it all hit. And we actually heard from folks about, I used this, like this helped me get through it. It can actually be a way to just feel better through things. So here we are with this firm, and we're saying, oh, we want it to be about inspiration, and we're a bunch of geeks. And so the first thing we do is dive into the academic research, right? That's where all the answers are. Not so much with inspiration. Like, it just isn't there. There's a couple of folks doing some really cool work, but it's a very specific form of inspiration, and it wasn't quite where we were. So we did it ourselves. We went out, we interviewed 100 people in really different forms of work, I will say, not even business. Artists, executives, workers, every kind of person that you can think of. And we wrote the book. It wasn't there. So we went out and did it. We did this research with 2 primary questions. What the heck is it, right? How can we pin down more what this inspiration is so we can do something with it? And how can we even increase our agency over inspiration? The answer to the second one is yes, and I'm going to talk about how. But let's start with what exactly is inspiration. Academic geeks that we are, the first round of our book draft had like paragraphs long definition of inspiration, you know, like practically written in Greek. Allison is fluent in Latin, like it could have been all of those things. And some wise people said to us, no, that's not going to work. Distill it down to the essential elements, right? Like all of us know how to define something the best way. And so what we came to is there are 2 things that together comprise a sense of inspiration. The first is a heightened sense of possibility, seeing more alternatives, seeing things in new ways, finding ideas that are farther outside the box than you ever looked before, right? So you just have a wider array of possibility before you. The second element then has to do with greater confidence to put those ideas into action. And we call that invincibility, not reckless invincibility, courageous, intentional invincibility put into action. When you combine many more ideas with a whole lot more confidence, then you've got that spark of inspiration. It is the combination of those 2 things. I hope that kind of resonates when you think about what inspires you. So that sparks inspiration, but what's the problem with the spark? They go out fast, right? And so we also wanted to look at how can you stretch inspiration to last longer, to happen more frequently. We're not looking for 24/7 inspiration. That frankly sounds exhausting to me. But how can we bring it about more often, and how can we make the duration of bouts of inspiration, spells of inspiration, experiences of inspiration be longer? What we found in talking with people about how they work with their own inspiration is it's like a muscle. You gotta work it. And so we talked about intentional practice of inspiration. When you combine that with the elements for the spark, you get what we call sustainable inspiration. So So you got to find that possibility and invincibility. Then you got to work at it. You got to make it happen. And that's how you extend inspiration in your life. So it sounds good on paper, but how do we actually do this? I'm there. I'm with you. I wanted to list for you what the folks that we spoke with told us happens when they're inspired, right? This is our version of ROI, return on inspiration. More innovation and strategic thinking, right? So cognitive juice is helped by inspiration. Stronger performance and results. It's a bold claim. We heard it across the board, right? Artists, factory workers, executives, designers, I'm trying to think, restaurateurs, all the kinds of people we talk about, pilot. Like, you just do better when you're inspired, right? It also impacts how we connect to others and relate to each other. You have deeper connections with people and a greater sense of community. And then that thing that we're all needing a lot of these days of constant change. We're more agile when we're inspired. We can adjust and move easier. We can adapt to things. And that pours into our resilience as well. So that's a good list. I want me some of that, right? More reasons to think about bringing inspiration into your life in an intentional kind of way. In this work that we did, in the research that we did, culling through our data, we actually talk about 5 truths in the book. I want to highlight 3 of them here for you. And I want to talk about each in a little more depth. Inspiration is highly personal. It's a leader's first job to inspire self. And inspiration is contagious, which that word got a bad rap with COVID. I'm bringing it back in a positive way, right? First of all, inspiration is highly personal to the point where we liken it to a fingerprint. Each of us, what inspires each of us is our own, right? Part of your work as a person who wants to be inspired more is to figure out about yourself, what is it, right? What is my mix of things that inspires me? Here's just a couple of examples that we heard in our interviews. Top left is a bathtub. We interviewed my college buddy, Keith Yamashita, who runs a real consulting firm. He's a big one. Ours is a little tiny one. He was a real one. And he was living in Manhattan at the time, running the company, and he told us, oh, I know exactly when I am inspired. Friday night, I'm exhausted after work. I stop at the corner magazine stand, and I buy a pile of magazines, and this is Keith's, like he's a pile of magazines. I go home, I run a hot bath, I get in the bathtub with my magazines, not in the water, right? I relax, and I'm a really visual, artistic guy. I comb through the pages, and when I find a picture that I like, I tear it out and I save it. Tear it out and I save it. I go through all my magazines. You wouldn't believe. I solve client problems, I figure out what to do for my employees, the ideas just flow. So for Keith, it's a bathtub and magazines. We interviewed a trauma surgeon, Dr. Shay Greg, G-R-E-G-G. Shay told us, what inspires you, Shay? When I've got a patient on the table, trauma room surgeon, when I've got a patient on the table who's bleeding out, whose vitals are sinking, that's when I'm inspired. To which we said, I think you're in the right job. Yikes-o. But it's that calling on what he can do, right? It's what impact could he have literally saving a life that inspires him. We heard from a lot of people that the word no is inspiring. Tell me I can't, and that'll fire me up to do it. Maybe some of you can relate to that. It came up a lot. And then, since I have the clicker, let's talk about me. This is my sweet redwood trees. I grew up in California, camping in the giant sequoia redwoods in the Santa Cruz Mountains. That was our home away from home. Mom changed our diapers in those trees. Campfires, all growing up until we were adults. My sister's kids go there now. The air breathes differently for me there. I learned from a ranger that redwoods actually emit more oxygen, so I'm not crazy, but it really does. I am transported when I am there. I am open, I am free, right? That's one of the biggest sparks of inspiration for me, where I see more possibility, where I feel more invincibility. Really different array, right, across different individuals. So inspiration is highly personal, first truth. Second truth, a leader's first job is to inspire self. Let's talk for 1 second about what we mean by leader. I'm not big on leaders are the people who have people reporting to them on an org chart. I don't really care if anybody reports to you on an org chart. I don't even care if you're at work. We are all leaders in our way in the different domains of our life. Where you want to influence others for good, you are leading. And your first job in that role as a leader is to inspire yourself. Filling up your own tank. It's a little bit of put your own oxygen mask on first, right, before the person with you. But you have to fill your own inspiration to be able to inspire others. That happens in part because of truth number 3. These are on the front page of your handout, by the way. Truth number 3, inspiration is contagious. The great Sigal Barsad, an old colleague of mine from early in my career who tragically died too soon. But anyway, Sigal's research was all about emotional contagion. And emotions travel across us very quickly, especially positive emotions, which inspiration is, right? And so, excuse me, if you can come into a room inspired, know that you're going to give that gift to the people around you. And if you can be around someone who's inspired, know that you can receive that from them quite naturally and quite reliably. These are important things to think about. Highly personal, what inspires each of us. Our first job in doing good in the world is to inspire ourselves. And inspiration is contagious in a good way. Questions or comments about those? What inspiration is or those truths? Okay, let's keep going. Let's continue on this quest of figuring out what inspires you. That's one of my goals for you today. I want you to think about a day when you are at your best. I don't mean 24 hours of perfection. I mean a day that included some part of you like being in the zone. Firing on all pistons, is that the right metaphor? Whatever, hitting everything correctly, right? Think back on a day like that and what went into it. And I want to talk about little I contributors, little I inspirers, and big I inspirers, right? Little I are the small things that can bring us to our best. I'm sure you've heard the research about if you make your bed in the morning, you're up to have a better day. Little things, right? A text from a friend that you just haven't heard from in a while. That perfect cup of coffee, right? Small things that help us. And then there are big I inspirers. Finishing a big task that you've labored over. Getting in a good run or workout at the start of your day, excuse me. A conversation with your kid that really affects both of you in a good way, right? More meaningful, excuse me. I want to ask you to think about yourself again, reflecting on a recent day when you were at your best at some point, a recent time when you were at your best. And think about the top 3 to 5 things that contributed to that. What was it about that day, the start of the day, the circumstance you were in, the people you were around, the task itself, whatever it was, that contributed to that to you being at your best? Think for a couple of minutes, jot down some notes if you want. I'm not going to force anybody to share, but I'll ask for ideas. First of all, how does it feel to think about a time when you were at your best? Not bad, huh? Like maybe that's something we could do a little bit more often? Remembering those kinds of things? Can you identify factors that contributed to you being at your best? This is part of our detective work of finding your inspiration fingerprint. Anybody want to share? Gail.
So one of my things is that I was with new people. One of my factors was that I was with new people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a learner. I love learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a huge thing. And the other thing of that same day was there was a variety of things that I was doing that day. And I was able to be the listener and observer.
Mm-hmm. Also going into your love of learning.
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. Thank you. Front row. Thanks, Shauna.
I felt challenged. I felt academically challenged, and
Yeah.
it was very revitalizing.
Yeah. Flow happens. Have you ever heard of flow? When we're just really, when challenge is matched by ability, right? When we're being pushed to the right spot. That's a sweet feeling. Yeah. Thank you. Terrific.
We have one from online.
Great.
Laughter throughout the day, being able to be in motion and time to think alone.
Love, 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 love. Laughter is so great. Like, you know how babies belly laugh? Like, why don't we do that more? It's so cool. Time to think, time to be alone. Love that. Thank you. Fantastic. Again, this is part of our detective work. Again, what we found from the people that we interviewed when we culled through the data, analyzing transcripts, we found patterns. There are predictable things that spark inspiration for people. And we call those engines of inspirations, the match that lights the spark, if you will. And we put them into 3 categories. Personal inspiration that emanates from within us. Inspiration from others that happens in relationship. And inspiration from situations or environments. There's 6 engines under each category. I promise I won't lecture you about all of them, but I do want to talk through them a little bit. You can follow them on your handout. And as we go through them, thinking about what inspired you at the beginning of this talk, I mean, when I made you think about inspiration, and what helped lead you to your best day, and just what strikes you as we're talking about these. Make some notes about which of these engines resonates for you. They're going to strike different people different ways, right? It's a fingerprint. Engines of inspiration that are from within us. I think the mother of all engines, isn't that like there's a mother sauce and then you make other sauces from, anyway. The mother of all engines is values and purpose. When we are tapping into what is most important to us and our reason for being, that's inspirational. That sparks that sense of possibility and invincibility. Achievement. Some of you talked about that this earlier when we started, right, of getting something great done. We talked to Bill Jennings, who's the CEO at Reading Hospital in Pennsylvania. We're in his office doing an interview with him, and there's a frame on the wall of his Boy Scout badges. I'm like, oh, yep, Bill, what's up with that? That was the first time in my life I set a goal, and I pushed toward it, and I achieved it. Man, it felt good. I want everybody in this hospital to feel that way when they are caring for our patients. Well, okay, but hanging on to that sense of achievement is a source of inspiration for him and for others. New perspectives. You've all heard of déjà vu. seeing something and feeling a sense of familiarity, something that's familiar to something you've done before. Adam Grant from the University of Pennsylvania talks about vujade. Did I say it right? I think so. Vujade. Inverts it. When you see something familiar and you see it completely differently. So this is about, it's a little bit of analogical thinking. It's a little bit of new ideas. Many of you know that when the Wright brothers, before the airplane, they were what? Bicycle mechanics, right? And they saw that the mechanics of the bicycle, turbine, blah, 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 I don't really know any science, right? Hey, this could do something else. And here's a new application for it. It's a new perspective on it. When Steve Jobs when the Apple Macintosh, how many? I was in college when the Mac came out, right? Before that team really started working, he took a calligraphy class, not to make a Macintosh, but he took a calligraphy class. You know, sordid relationship with education, I think, a little bit, or not a reliable one. Anyway, saw from the writing, wait a minute, letters can be in different shapes, different styles, different forms. What if you could do that on a computer? And that was the inception of many different fonts. Remember in the beginning when you would spend 20 minutes at the start of a document deciding what font am I going to use, right? Like that was a big deal, those of us who are old enough to remember, right? Just a different perspective. Why does typing always have to be in the same typewriter font? Let's have a choice. Different perspectives. Activating strengths. The research on this out of positive psychology is rich and fun and robust. And the return on activating things that you are good at, doing stuff that are your strengths, is rich and bountiful. What are you good at? What are your strengths? Put them in action. That's inspiring. Just that, right? Unstructured time. My co-author Allison's favorite professor from her experience at Dartmouth was with Dr. Christian Jernstedt, who taught her about brain science and about unstructured time. Have you ever had the experience of you're driving home, you're taking a shower, you're folding your laundry, and that's when the idea comes, right? That's when the inspired moment happens. Because when your brain is focused on a task that's not so complex, not so deep problem solving, the other part of your brain, again, I'm totally deficient on the science, right? But the different neurons and neural pathways are activated, which is the real processing of your brain, and they're going to town. You freed them up to work. When we have a huge pile of work in front of us, we tend to just burrow, right? Push through. What if we took a step back? A 15-minute walk. 5 minutes of listening to a good song or reading a poem. Right? This doesn't have to be a complicated thing. Just to switch up what's going on in our brain and activate the possibility for new inspiration. And then movement. We all know how endorphins help us out when we're exercising, right? And we get that extra juice. There's also Amy Cuddy's research on power posing, right? If you strike a power pose, which is a more masculine pose, right? Oh, I broke it all. Thank you, Diana. When you power pose without breaking your PowerPoint, where was I? Somewhere around here, yeah. Okay. You actually increase your testosterone levels, right? There's a chemical change in your body from holding a power position. For me, it's about a squat because I feel like, yeah, come at me, like I'm so powerful. Whatever it is, right? Thinking about how your body gets activated is important too. So inspiration from within you. Inspiration from relationships, mentors and heroes. It's a great story about Chance the Rapper starting out his career, redoubling his commitment to his career based on an answering machine message from Common. Apparently their grandmothers were friends. We didn't get to interview them. This is the story we found. But Common's grandma said, hey, there's this kid who's trying to get started out in rap. Why don't you give him a call and encourage him? So Common gives him a call, leaves a message on his answering machine. To this day, Chance the Rapper will say that that was the thing that made it okay for him to pursue this crazy profession as an artist, right? Someone he admired, a hero to him, said, go for it, buddy. And that was everything. Who are your mentors? Who are your heroes? How do they inspire you? Serving others. We interviewed Michael Baruti, Dr. Michael Baruti, who runs the 1214 Foundation. 1214 is the date of the Sandy Hook massacre. Not long after that horrible tragedy, they went into the school. He brought artist friends with him, theater friends with him, and put on a play with the kids. Brought us in. We did some work with them around strengths and superheroes and this and that. His whole thing was, this is a sea of darkness and I'm going to bring light. And that service was incredibly inspiring to him. Worked really hard through inspiration. This one surprised us. Being vulnerable can be inspiring. Margaret Greenberg, who wrote Profit from the Positive, as in positive psychology, and also wrote The Business of Race, which we might read in MBLI class, you guys. Hang on. She's going to give this talk at a university, at a happiness forum, to over 3,000 people at a university. Right on, right? The night before, tragedy struck. A university student, her mother and brother were killed in a car accident. So Margaret had this really tough decision to make. Do we cancel the talk? Who wants to talk about happiness? Do I give my talk anyway and just know that it's going to fall flat? Instead of doing either of those things, she made a choice in the moment to get really vulnerable with the people she was talking to. She shared with them a story of her own grief, losing her mother to death by suicide. And it wasn't a, oh yeah, well listen to my story. It was a, I'm with you in this grief journey. And then Margaret talked about how that act of vulnerability, which is a major act of vulnerability, you don't have to get that vulnerable to get inspired, but Margaret did. She talked about how it changed how she related to people going forward. It opened up whole new ways, new possibilities for how she could talk and connect with people. I gotta go faster through these. Belonging. We all know the power of belonging, right? When you can say, these are my people. An HR executive who was on the board of trustees at Stillman College told us about his where he was an alumnus. Anyway, went to the college, would sit in the chapel and listen to the choir sing. And there was one particular hymn that brought together for him, and he's telling us through tears, his faith and his allegiance to this beautiful place. He said, yes. These are my people. This is who I am. And that was incredibly inspiring for him. Where do you feel that sense of belonging? Where do you get that home feeling? Just like serving others is inspirational, getting a lift from someone else works too. Whether you asked for it or if they anticipated your need. Being helped by others can be very inspirational. And then a shared mission. This is kind of the group version of values and purpose. We interviewed Brigadier General Tom Kolditz, who founded the Dewar Institute at Rice University, a leadership school for undergraduate students. In 2017, when Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, where Rice University is located, they had a choice to make. The whole university shut down. Kolditz and his team said, you know what, we're going to stay open. We're going to stay open and we're going to help. And they went and talked to the provost and they talked to the president of the school and they said, we're here, what can we do? And word got out. And there were so many students at Rice University. Kolditz's military experience and tactical experience came in handy as he mobilized this force of students to help Houston through this tragedy. Why were they doing it? They had a shared purpose. They had a shared reason to be helping, and it called them forward. Third category, we're almost there. I already talked about my redwoods, inspiring environments. Obviously, I can't go there very often. I live here. Come to my office. Come visit me in my office. There's pictures of redwoods everywhere. It doesn't take me a lot to visit there in my mind and in my heart. I go pretty quickly, and it means a lot, right? What are the environments that inspire you? Whatever they are, a museum, a corner of the basement where you love to read your favorite books, whatever it is, right? What inspires you? What are the places? Witnessing excellence. I love to watch the Olympics. I love to go see shows at the Arnoff. I love to teach in my classroom. They are the same experience to me. They are seeing people go for it and try to be the best that they can be. That knocks me out. Witnessing people being outstanding, we were just talking about this, right? Is very inspiring. Shared group experiences, that collective feeling, could be church, could be a Taylor Swift concert, could be watching the women's soccer team, how fun that was this season, right? Whatever it is, you know that feeling when you're sitting in a room around people and it's like, yeah, we're all doing the same thing together and this feels good. A source of inspiration. Again, overcoming constraints, that word no. Tight resources, I say carefully knowing that's a sensitive topic around here, right? But being denied and saying, I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to make it happen. Making a difference. We highlight, again, we didn't get to interview her, but we highlight Malala Yousafzai in the book. This incredibly brave young woman, right, whose village was taken over by the Taliban. The Taliban denied girls the right to a lot of things, including school. They took down schools, and she would not be denied. This powerful young woman fought and fought and fought for schooling. They fought back, including shooting her in the face. She persisted. Why? Right? She's not on some kind of suicide mission. This is someone who's making a difference. Every time you hear her talk, if you read her book, girls deserve education. Girls deserve education. It's powerful. The last one was a surprise to us. People talked about loss, grief, and even failure as a source of inspiration, right? A number of people said, I lost this person in my life died, and I'm inspired to carry on their legacy, pay tribute to them, live the way they would have wanted me, however form it takes, right? Or I couldn't get myself to do this until I failed at what I was doing. And that was the thing that kicked me out of it and got me going to the thing I wanted to be doing. The story about Stacey London. Did any of you ever watch that show, What Not to Wear? Yeah. Who was at Mademoiselle for way too long. And anyway, it wasn't until she got fired that she let herself move forward. So, my question to you is, when you look at this long list of 18 engines, what resonates for you? Which call to you and say, yeah, that's something that's particularly meaningful to me. I can relate to that. These are data, these reactions that you're having to these different engines. And so you want to pay attention to what works best for you. So I want to put you to work again. The last page of the handout has kind of some worksheet type questions on it. The page in between, there's the definition of the engines, and there's a page of sort of how do you activate the engines, the questions that put them into practice. And then that last page is to make some notes about engines that you want to start using. How will you commit to a practice of inspiring yourself? How will you activate that engine in your life? And I'm talking, where is it in your calendar? Intentions are not enough, right? Let's really make ourselves do it. And think about what would be different if you did? What would it be like if you could feel inspired more often for a longer duration? If you could call on it when you need it, instead of just hoping something will happen. Think about those questions a little bit, please. So we've spent a lot of time now on sparking inspiration, on possibility and invincibility, right? And how to use the engines to spark inspiration. But oh yeah, there's that piece of intentional practice, because sparks burn out too fast. That's not useful to us. The whole second half of the book is about this, so I can't get into it in too much depth, but I want to give you just a few pathways, if you will. And the first one is go back to the engines. Mix a different cocktail of engines. Try one that hasn't worked for you. Do something different. That's always a source. Go back, go back, go back, right? But another way to stretch your inspiration, to grow your inspiration, is to experience success in terms of progress toward meaningful goals. When you do something with your inspiration that matters to you, it builds, right? It's nicely intuitive. It's important that it's meaningful goals. If you're using your inspiration to complete tasks somebody assigned to you that you just have to get done so you can get home and cook dinner and put the kids to bed, not so much. Meaningful goals. Progress toward meaningful goals is one of the most motivational factors we know, more than pay, more than reward, more than title. Progress toward meaningful goals. Other people can play a big part in your inspiration practice. So looking for both support and accountability from people around you to keep your practice going. Sometimes you just got to talk about it with a friend. Sometimes you need a buddy to help you out, and sometimes you need someone to say, you were going to try this on Wednesday, did you do it? Bringing those people in is a great way to help yourself, just like any muscle building or skill development that you're doing. And then finally, we talk a lot at InspireCore and in this book about managing your energy. And by that I mean physical energy, cognitive energy, emotional energy, and what the energy gurus called spiritual, we call purpose-oriented energy. You want to check in with yourself on a regular basis throughout the day on all four of those. What? Yeah, right? Looking at all four of those types of energy: physical, cognitive, emotional, purposeful. You cannot be depleted and inspired. Let's do it that way. You have to have stores of energy to fuel your inspiration, and so that's another way to stretch it out. That's where we're going tonight. Questions? Comments? Was this useful? How'd we do on the Hokie meter? Yeah. We're okay? We're okay? Questions? Comments? Yeah. Oh, wait. Shauna's bringing the mic. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I don't know if you already answered the question,
Okay.
but what did inspire you to write this book?
Oh, I love that. So we wanted to build this practice of helping people be more inspired, and we didn't know what it was. I mean, it was just our passion for what we saw people experiencing, but we didn't know how to crack the nut of what it was or how to help people experience it more. So it was our desire, I guess that's a serving others engine, that inspired us. Thanks, that's a nice question. What else?
I just wanted to thank you and just to say my aha was just the realization that inspiration comes in so many different ways
Yeah.
to people.
Yeah.
It just, I never even thought about that before. And just like we all have different preferences for other things. So for me not to think that what inspires me is going to inspire somebody else.
Yes.
It's a big...
It's a really important
Yeah.
point. And it's so true of all aspects of being our best and being leaders. You got to go inward first. You got to know yourself first. You write your own fingerprint of what inspires you. You are entitled to that, and you require that. So it's your own detective effort. But I love your point too, Gail, about don't expect what inspires me to inspire you. Yeah, it's really important. Good.
So I'm thinking if I'm teaching an entry-level chemistry course,
Yes.
general
For
education.
example, hypothetically.
Hypothetically. And so many times it feels like the students are depending on me to inspire them.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it a suggestion that the next time I teach this entry-level gen ed course to start off by asking them to discover what inspires? Because I think they are looking at us for their inspiration. And if
Yeah.
it's not a class, you're a department chair.
Yeah.
And the faculty are depending on the chair to inspire. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it is. So how do you help your students find their own inspiration?
It's such a great question, Diana, and it's so important. You'd think I'd have a formulated response to it, but what it makes me think of is, you're not going to give them a lecture on 18 engines of inspiration, right? You can't, right? So I would pick some. I would pick values and purpose. I would pick shared mission. And I would help them getting into the why of chemistry. Why should I be taking an intro to chemistry class, right? And if you can connect that in some way, that's going to help him with it. If you can help them connect with others to share a project, to be on a mission together, right? So you can kind of bring some of the engines to them. Are you going to get their fingerprint exactly right? No. But you're not going to do any harm, and you might just hit them in the right place. Yeah, great question.
We have one from online. Ashley asks, did your research find that people tended to have most of their engines in one category, more or less?
Super interesting question. I love that. No. We didn't test that hypothesis. I think it's really interesting, but we didn't notice that. We seem to all have kind of our spots around, which makes sense to me, right? Because we are social creatures. We have an inner life, and we do go to many different places in our lives. So I love that thinking. We didn't notice a pattern around that. Thank you. Yeah. Another question? So how did we do? Other key insights or questions?
Sorry. Kind of related to what Diana was asking. When you work with institutions or people as consultants,
Mm-hmm.
how do you help them inspire their organizations?
Yeah. So going back to a leader's first job is to inspire self. And when we work with leaders individually, we do dig in. And we do get into which of these engines is most useful to you, and let's make a plan, and let's activate them on a regular basis. So we start with their inspiration. Then the thing about contagion is it makes it scalable. And so when you talk about inspiring a group, bringing your own inspiration is one of the most powerful things you can do. And then again, tapping into those kind of most shared engines, like purpose, like mission, like belonging, can really help create that sense on a broader scale. So you have to do a little guessing about what's going to be most useful to people. But absolutely, we start with their own inspiration. You have to bring that. And we have to bring that to our classrooms. We can't expect to inspire our students if we're not coming in really jazzed about intro to chemistry. Yeah. Good. Another good question. Other insights? How'd we do on agency? You feel like you have a sense of what you could do around your own inspiration? I want it to not be a mystery for you. I want you to have a sense and have a plan of action. This is yours to make happen for yourself? Then I'll end here. We're in a place in this university, in this country, in this world where we all need inspiration. So please bring yours. Please bring yours to your community, to your family, to your coworkers, to whatever it is. We need your inspiration. Put your plan into action. Great. Thank you all so much. Thank you. What a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. You will find 2 QR codes, one that talks about the upcoming forum and 6 at 6 events. So if you are interested in joining us for other lovely civil conversations, we'd love to have you. You can learn more about those, as well as to give us feedback on tonight's event and what we can do better, different, or inspire ourselves for the future. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Spataro's book is on sale at the back of the room if you're interested in getting a copy for the holidays or just if you need some inspiration yourselves. So you're welcome to do that and spend time with Dr. Spataro on the way out. Thank you so much for joining us.